Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order, and welcome back to everyone, except we are missing Commissioner Jordan tonight. First item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the June 27th meeting.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin.
Sure.
And seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Any additions and/or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. That motion carries. The investment report, I am just going to report some information from Mr. Beatty, our county trustee. There was one bid taken in July, a bid for $5 million, but it was separated. $1 million was for 1 year at 50 basis points, and the other $4 million was for 6 months at 20 basis points. And he reported that LGIP is moving up. Now, we have been stuck at 0.12 for several months. It is now 0.13.
There we go.
Let's not spend it all.
Moving on up, moving on up.
That is the report from Mr. Beatty, our trustee gentleman.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Petty. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have quite a few pieces of paper here, don't we? Our fund condition report. If you will locate the packet for the entire year, we will start first of all with the development tax report.
We closed the year earning $2,001,250 in development tax.
Yeah.
Now, sales tax, we ended the year overall, this is all the cities and the county combined. Our sales tax increased 7.27% in 11-12 over the prior year. Okay, your revenue, you have a revenue review sheet that gives you the, all the funds on how, after we amended all the revenues, how they actually came in. On a percentage basis. As Ms. Elaine has already given you your fund condition report for the period. At the end of June, our cash balance was $186,753,000. With $152,170,000 being operating funds, $34,580,000 being borrowed funds.
Now, do we need to look, or are there any questions about the details of the year-end report?
You've got in the report on how, when you look at the summary expenditure report, you will see, each department on how much they had available to spend. At the end of the year, we did not spend $2,973,000. So that was the sheet that I just threw out to you earlier is, say, well, where was it? It's in the packet will give you each department, what each department returns. But this kind of is a global view, and where was it? On our salary and benefits, we did not spend $1,158,000. And as you know, this is our conservative budgeting, is we budget 100% of the positions all year. Contracted service for $300,000, supplies materials $359,000. Other charges, $107,000 we did not spend, and on our capital items, $448,000. I believe in that capital is related to some grants.
Lisa, when we have something that, like a grant, since you mentioned it, and also there are other funds that say one of the departments will turn in, but expect it back right after the new budget comes in, are you subtracting those numbers out of this, or is that still?
The only thing that should go back is, and we budget that in, is if there was a grant, like those Homeland Security grants and the home grant that we do, those, that if they're not spent at the end of the year, that will go across over to the next year. We try to budget those in.
Because those monies have to be paid back if they're not spent anyway.
Well, they're
in a lot of cases.
reimbursable. You know, if you remember what we budget at the end of the year, we'll make some changes and we'll put it in revenue and expenditures because it's,
Okay.
you're awarded a grant of X amount of dollars. You may have only spent and received part of it in one
Mhm.
year, and we just roll it, the revenue and the appropriations.
And then
in the
that'll
next
go back
year.
to that department. What about where an individual, say, gives money to a department, say, like Paul's or the sheriff's department, and they say, I want this for mounted horse, or this for dog feed, or something like that. If that money's rolled back, do you put it back into those accounts?
I don't, we don't those. I say we don't, we do. I think in the sheriff's department, because we know that they will have some turn, you know, that would roll, like for their Explorers Post and
Mhm.
a few other of those. I think it
So you're
was
saying those-
9,100 that we would have rolled into next year. We would have gone ahead and budgeted some money in the appropriations
So
to
you're-
take care of some of that.
So you're saying that there is money in here that will come out that
There's
that's
some
basically
of
already.
appropriations not spent that you would put in there that,
Yeah.
that would not necessarily be put into next year's budget except through amendment.
Well, what I'm getting at is, you know, we've got some large amounts, we need to know about those, so. If
Fine.
we're saying they're in the general fund, and we're thinking that's money we can put anywhere, but
Mhm.
yet, there may be, say, $500,000 that's supposed to go back to
Oh.
the department.
Big dollars, yeah, I mean, I think, we would account for that. We would restrict those amounts.
So we are doing that.
Yes, we are doing
Okay.
that.
I just
Okay.
wanna
Because,
make sure, thank you.
well, there's often, with the sheriff especially, is the one, because they get those grants that go on, and they don't get them finished by the end of the year, or they come in so late, but you can't leave them hanging, that you
Some,
gotta put it.
If we know, and it's at the end of the year, during the budget process, we'll know there's no way that they could get it. We'll go ahead and put that into next year's
Year's
budget, the
budget.
revenue and the appropriation, and already
Mhm.
put it in there.
But does it ever show up in unassigned fund balance until, I think this is what maybe Robert was getting, until it goes back into the fund it should go?
You mean to the department?
Yeah, to the department for,
We
we're not getting a false impression that it's a few $100,000 more than what unassigned fund balance really is what
That's the
we're
question,
asking,
right?
yeah.
Are you saying, I'm just repeat what I'm hearing. When you look at unassigned, is it really
Those are
unassigned?
labeled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. We try very hard to restrict, commit those that we're aware of when we close.
Okay.
Now, we may have some, like the sheriff's department would have those, some donations that they.
It shouldn't be the big dollar. It shouldn't be the $500,000 though,
Oh,
type
no,
stuff. So
no.
that's already tagged, labeled,
Okay.
dedicated, as we
Right.
say,
Right.
for that account.
It wouldn't be.
Right.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, go back to that, if you're talking about the big stuff on the $500,000 that we did the prior year for the things, that was not restricted, or it was totally unassigned until you assigned it or appropriated it. So we don't have any of that happening this year.
Yeah.
What, the school punch list? I mean, that is that what you're talking about?
Vehicles.
Now, it's talking about the vehicles.
The vehicles, okay. Yeah.
But we knew about that.
But you knew that.
We labeled it, but not officially
We
labeled
did-
it.
You didn't
I got
officially
you,
label
got
it.
it, yeah.
We said we'll just wait and see how it is.
Yeah.
But there are major grants that are monies that we may have received that have a specific purpose. But generally, grants and stuff, they're reimbursable. We gotta spend the money before we get the money.
Mhm.
So,
Just as a point of comparison, what was the variance last year between the amended budget and what we actually spent in the general fund? It's 2.9 million for the year we just concluded. I know you may not have that information off the top of your
I
head.
don't have, can I get back?
Yeah,
Get back with you on that? I had not pulled out those last year's budget sheets, I could have told you.
You look at that June fund condition report,
The June,
the one that, they've got June and July.
I
Yeah.
think it meant the year before that.
Oh, okay.
The,
Oh, okay.
okay. So are we ready to move into the next fiscal period? Our transition is available. There's the second sheet that I gave you. At the end. And it's got estimated change in fund balance. So just after we closed, you know, this is how we do. After everything was said, we closed and we've restricted monies and we've done that. So what is our unassigned assigned? If you remember the county general, we were starting out 15.6 and now bumped it up to 16.6 at the end where we ended up with 18.7. The other ones were pretty close. The schools, we were estimating at 18 and they ended at 21.6. So how do we look for next fiscal year on a budgetary basis right now? Our general fund right now is projecting at 19.6% of appropriations
Good.
at, you know, going into next year. General purpose school at 4.4, debt service at 75.4, and cafeteria is 27.4. That's the fund that should not exceed 25. You see that it does. So now the school board will have to file a plan with the state to say, how are they gonna spend the money? It's just in here.
Yeah.
There he is. He told me that what part of the plan was, I'm sure he'll address it, is that they will be improving food quality and buying equipment.
That's a bad one to put in there, I'm sorry, improving food quality.
So that's where so I guess, you know, we talk about being conservative when we do, the end of the story, we did not spend as much as what I was kind of working with.
That's good news,
It
and
is
we
good
appreciate
news.
the conservative budgeting.
Yeah.
Especially when there's some other counties that aren't as conservative on the revenue, and they've reached a point during the last fiscal year where they ran out of money.
Mhm.
Or, and they're not opening schools.
Exactly.
Okay, so we ready to.
Gentlemen, are we now ready to start with the new year, the July report?
Yes. I
And
think.
again, we'll start with the development tax.
And just as a side note, remember, we still budgeted only $1 million for this fund. We closed last year with $1.5 million that we got restricted for capital. So that's really our beginning balance in that. We estimated $1 million, so in this fund, $500,000, and we allocated $500,000. So you've got growth there. Okay, so in our first month, we received $118,500 in development tax. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Compared to last year.
Do we have a target amount for this coming year? It's $1 million again, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else for that?
That's
will
all
be-
that really helped us out last year, the apartment complex that's going on.
Okay, it's not a lot of
I mean, we wouldn't
history,
mention it here, but-
you know, in July, that's really July revenue. So we're just not gonna look at the revenue review sheets, you can see it's so little, it's less than 1% that we received in July. Sales tax, I received this today. This is our first reported month, and we're at 9.7% higher than July of last year. So we're starting strong this year.
Cash balances?
End of July, we have $175,132,000.
Yeah.
With $141,439,000 being operating funds and $33,693,000 being borrowed funds.
And the chair will entertain a motion on the fund condition reports.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Baum. Any further discussion or questions for Mrs. Nolan? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Just here, just.
Mrs. Stinson, we're ready for the insurance report. Gentlemen, if you will locate your packet that Mrs. Stinson has provided for us, she will, of course, begin with the financial.
We're reporting for both months, June and July. So we can start with Fund 264, we'll go through the fiscal year-end results. For the month of June, our per employee per month was $726.96 compared to prior year of $770.67. When we combined the clinic experience for the month of June, we ended at $762.15 compared to a prior year of $820.32. I think what we're most interested in is where did we end up for year end, and our trend was 10.6% above prior year at the end of this past fiscal year, which actually is a little bit better than what I had thought we may end up at. So, although it could be better, it definitely could have been worse.
Where'd you think it was gonna end up at?
Well, Mr. Sandvik and I were both talking earlier. I had estimated somewhere around 15. He was about in the same neighborhood, so.
Really?
5% less.
That's a big difference in thought there.
Any questions on that one? I'll go to the.
That's where we had the timing earlier in the
Correct.
year.
Mm.
Right.
That's right.
Does that pretty much make up the difference right there?
Yes, we had one absorbent claim, and we had a couple of large as well that were still sizable, that we absorbed 100% on because it was below stop loss threshold.
I mean, we still got on the table starting out.
Actually, we were very fortunate that we were able to get one large claim that ended in, at the end of May, I believe, Fish 3 Cigna, before the end of the fiscal year in our stop loss year. So we actually got funding from stop loss for that, and it saved the county
Good.
$700,000.
Good, good, good.
So we'll go to the next Fund 264 report, which is for the month of July. For the month of July, we're at $918.84 compared to $773.71 at prior year. Combining clinic experience, we're at $955.92 compared to $791.34. So we're starting out at 20% above, but it's early on, and so I expect that we'll see that drop throughout the year. There's not a lot of value on that number right now.
This is the big month. Yeah.
Are you ready for Fund 266 reporting?
Yes.
266 for the month of June ended at $535,792.26 compared to prior year of $972,976.98. So we had a much better month compared to prior year. I'm going to give you some information about the OJI program compared to workers' comp. That seems to be the one question I get the most is how are we doing in terms of our OJI since we've moved over from workers' comp, and we'll go over that in just a little bit as well. For the month of July, for Fund 266, we're at $74,775.16 compared to a prior year of $62,887.82. So there again, on Fund 266, we're starting a little bit higher than we had so far a year. There's a sheet in here for you from Select Actuarial. Every 2 years we have an actuarial study done of our OJI program. This gives us, as well as our outstanding workers' comp, this gives us a comparison. What this report tells you is for projected losses for July the 1st, 2012 through June the 30th, 2013, so for current fiscal year, where will we be in OJI compared to where we would have been had we remained in workers' comp. What it shows is projected ultimate losses will be $586,000 compared to what we would have been had we remained in a workers' comp situation, which would have been $2,049,000. So significant savings there by going through an OJI program.
Mm.
And we did continue to have the 19 workers' comp claims still open.
Approve the report before it goes any further. Motion to approve.
Commissioner Sandman, seconded by Commissioner Fix. Any further discussion or questions for Mrs. Stinson?
I'd just like
Commissioner
to
Shea.
ask one, and going back on, this is Fund 264 for July. Okay. And I look at it, and I look down below at last year's. It's with school starting back, it's saying, you know, that last year, August was the big one. And in July, what would, do you have any idea what would cause it to be up that much with, I mean, because the school system is our largest by far of employees. And I would just think that they would not be using the doctors or the med point as much as normal when they weren't in.
So what drove the cost was this. If you look at prior year, our Cigna claims, our self-funded claims were 3.6 million. For this July, they were 4.5. So that's $900,000 right there.
So
If you look at our costs for our clinics, we're at 189,453 for this current July. Compared to prior year, we were at $87,850.
okay.
So our overall costs were up, which is what's driving. But as you can see in both the self-funded claims and on the cost for the clinics, the months vary. You know, there's not really a consistent pattern in the cost on either one, so.
Okay.
That's why I said there's not a lot of value in the 1 month report, because you really see that kind of flush out throughout the year.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and you have one other thing you need to present.
Did we vote on
Did
it?
we not vote? I apologize. On the financials, thank you, Commissioner Sandlin had made a motion, seconded by Commissioner Petty. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
The next thing I have for you is the bonds for public officials. With the recent election for the road superintendent and assessor of property, I have 2 bonds I need to obtain. The current amount of the bond for the road superintendent is $100,000, and that's the recommendation in front of you. The assessor of property carries a $10,000 bond, and I need approval on these bonds now, so I can obtain them prior to September 1.
That's what we've done before,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Sandlin, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do you have anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if you'll turn to section 3 in your notebooks, we will begin with the general fund budget amendments.
Oh, you're waiting on
And
me.
and you have the first
Are you
one.
waiting on me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. This is a request to add $8,430 from the unassigned fund balance to building and contents to cover the additional fire departments, the volunteer fire departments that came in of the county, and then to add $5,400 for liability insurance to add coverage for the sheriff's department's reserve officers. These people function like volunteer fire department. It's the same kind of liability coverage.
So this is above and beyond what we've been normally doing?
We've done the volunteer fires, we've not, we've never done the reserve officers for the sheriff's department.
Is there a change in the,
Just an oversight, we didn't realize we should have picked them up earlier.
So
What
moved.
exactly do they, excuse me, go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Sandlin, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Discussion, Commissioner Schaefer?
Yeah, exactly what do the reserve officers do? Give me some examples.
They,
I can empower as many reserve deputies to, they ride with the officers on patrol. They go through training, we issue them weapons, or we
Do
issue.
they do stuff like at the judicial building or anything like that, or not?
They are actually with our patrol officers. So
Okay.
basically, we're getting two
Two-
main units
Okay,
in the county. They have to volunteer 20 hours a month. They have to go through the Citizens Academy, then they have to go through
Okay.
15 weeks of basic, just like our regular officers do, but they do all this out of their own time.
Okay.
It was a question that came up going, hey, don't these guys have the same coverage as volunteers?
Okay.
And no one had ever looked at this before. And we always had about 15. I'm up to almost 40 right now. I'd like to have 50. And if the program keeps growing, we'll keep growing. It's a way to offset naturally from budget, asking for patrol officers to getting people to volunteer.
So they actually assist the patrol officers on calls and things like this?
They are,
Okay.
they work with the officers side by side. It's a two-man unit now.
Okay.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
They don't want to be. You and I, neither one of us know about it. Public safety.
I think we're good.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yeah.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Question on that. When did y'all find this oversight, since we didn't see it in public safety? If we did, I don't recall it.
Melissa came up with this. I don't know if she's left here. It hasn't been but a few
Came
weeks.
from risk management, yes.
Okay. I'm glad we got the idea too.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, we need to say
A register of deeds, Ms. Dahlborn, and would you introduce
Sure.
the gentleman with you, please?
I'd love to. This is part of our new Records Management Initiative team. This is Wilkie Buchanan, he's our IT project manager, and Walker Burford, he's our records manager analyst. And they're joining with me in the Records Management Initiative that we're here to fund this evening through our EDP fund out of the Registrar's Office. I apologize, earlier on when we did budget, we didn't have enough information. With this, we just got the permission to do these duties end of May. I knew we were gonna do a lot of research on equipment costs and those types of things before I could even give you any basic numbers. So that's what we've been doing, and that's why we're here to amend the budget today. And these monies will be coming from our EDP fund, which is a restricted fund solely for electronic data processing, the equipment that we need. This will allow us to do back scanning and microfilming, not only for our office, but all the offices within the county that have a desire or need for us to do that. This should be a really good investment, return on our investment for the county. It's we're working also alongside with the State Archives Department. They're very excited about us beginning this for the county of Rutherford. And it should free up a lot of space and help also. We've also got the Records Commission with John Lovell and Archives are also in full support of this project. The monies that we're looking at are for not only equipment, but some document management services and the supplies, the microfilm and the chemicals that you need to process microfilm.
So you're talking about other offices, it would be additional cost then for us to have any other offices that would want to go through this type program?
Right. For example, last year I hired an outside vendor to do a lot of back scanning for our office.
Mhm.
And in that process, it's very expensive. I
Yeah.
spent, I think, $130,000, doing about 85% of the registrar's office now has been back scanned and backed up. The 15% that has not been done are books that are a larger format, and that would have been even more costly to do those. I've waited on doing those. Some people have asked, why are you, if you're not finished with the registrar's office, why are you taking on other offices? I want to find out through the inventory of the rest of the county if there are other offices that have larger formatted books. If so, then perhaps, depending on the level or volume of that, we may need to buy that equipment. If not, we may rent that out, or we may actually pay an outside provider to do those. Where this project came to our mindset was, fortunately, Rutherford County has been blessed and cursed with rapid growth over the past several years, as you know. My office collected a $2 fee on every document, and that money accumulated to a large sum of money. It is in excess of what my office needs to take care of the electronic data processing needs of the registrar's office. But it can only be used for electronic data processing. It's restricted for that purpose by law. That's what we collected it for. So I worked with Representative Carr and Senator Ketron. We changed the law to allow us to take on the duties of records management for other offices within the county. So that's why we had to wait till that was passed, which happened in May. So now we're in the process of starting that project, which will allow us, we became aware of the issues other departments do not have. The finances to do this. It's not a neglect on anybody else's part. They didn't have the equipment or the finances to pay outside vendors to do the business, back scanning for them and microfilming. We have the funds. We can release them this way, and then we've also got staff that we can use to do the scanning. We just needed someone to kind of coordinate it. We needed IT involved. It's going to be an excellent project. We've got a lot of cooperation amongst all the different departments and offices. The Records Commission, again, is behind this. Should save the county long-term. For example, we looked at what the state archives several years ago had come into Rutherford County and done a space study of document management, space study when we were planning the original archives building. At that point in time, they did square footage, storage plans for each department. For example, the circuit court clerk's office, you've got to consider vertical and horizontal storage. It's about 30,000 square feet. And we believe with this project, once we scan it and microfilm it, once both of those things happen, a lot of documents can be disposed of. So now you're taking, we believe we can take that storage space from 30,000 square feet to almost 1,200 square feet, which saves a lot of space. So if ever need to move that building or redo that building, think of the cost that could be saved there. But also it saves labor costs, because in retrieval it's a lot more efficient to retrieve an electronic document and send it out, as opposed to searching for it in a filing cabinet, a box, a basement, a storage shed. The third advantage of doing this project is it secures the county's documents. Right now, documents are housed all over the county, not by anybody, not in sometimes the best of conditions. So I know some departments are scanning their documents already, they just don't have a way to microfilm them. And even though they've scanned them, they can't dispose of them, because by statute, they have to be microfilmed before they can be disposed of. So, example, some of the stuff in archives is just sitting there, or in some offices is just sitting there. It's scanned, they've got an electronic version, but they still have to hold that paper. Once we microfilm it, we'll be able to move it through the process, freeing up space, making more room for, other things that we can use those spaces for, and maybe not needing to add new space.
Well, in microfilm, old technology, we're moving away from that.
Well,
I was doing that when I was in college.
Right. I know, it is and it isn't. In records management, it's archival. It has a 500-year shelf life. And if you think about your 8-track car player, and then you think about your cassette player and your CD, and then your iPod, when they become obsolete, sometimes the cost to convert is very expensive. Microfilm is one of those things, if a disaster happens and all the power's out, and all you need is a light source, and you can view it. It's there. It's considered, and by statute, we're required, before we can dispose of documents, to microfilm it. It's not an option, but that's why. It's kind of an archival storage, and you can store it in a vault, and it's got 500 years on it, where a piece of paper, tornado, wind, flood, fire, you've got issues.
Well, I know Mr. Robinson came to us and got monies for a backup archive, and I assume that this is going into that too.
Right.
So.
We're one of the parts of the equipment cost that you see there. I'll break it down for you real quickly. The archive writer, now that's a machine that takes a digitized document and converts it into microfilm. That's about an $84,000 piece of equipment. But again, we have a lot of departments that are already scanning. They just don't have the ability to convert that to microfilm. Then you'd need a microfilm processor. That's about $30,000. That takes the film that you've written and processes it like film. Then we're looking at a high-speed scanner. That's about $25,000. That we're talking hoss of a scanner. We're talking because we're going to it'll be nonstop, go all day, all week, all month, all year, just go, go, go. Another big store, we need, 4 terabytes that we're
4 terabytes of storage for documents, video files, whatever the county's
that goes into the county server, not the register server. We're working together in tandem on the project that will build the county's records storage system. And then we'll have installation expenses of the equipment. The microfilm processor has to have water and a special electrical outlet and things of that nature, and we'll need some new computer equipment. All that being said, then there's some supplies there. That's for microfilm. I currently, just in my office, spend about $13,000 a year to an outside vendor to do my microfilm on an annual basis. What I see happening is once we get all this backlog done, and it's a mammoth project. If you have any idea of the number of records that are stored in the county all over the place, it's a huge project. It will take several years to get, I'm thinking 3 to 5 years to get it back scanned and in. Past that, though, we need to continue with the microfilm project, and if we do that in-house, that will prevent the buildup again of these excess documents. We can create a system that, Mr. Lodell has a system to, take the documents through disposition. We have, all departments have a disposition, and they go before the Records Commission. Some records are 3, some are 5, some are 10 years, and some are permanent. Unfortunately, not everyone is utilizing that system because of not having that ability to back up in microfilm. They can't let go. So with this, they'll be able to finally send those records through, and we'll be able to clear up offices and make space for so many. I know even Lisa has financial records currently that they've scanned that you're housing. Are you housing those in archives or in your office still?
Goldstein basement. Goldstein basement?
Yeah, basements. They're required to be kept until they're microfilmed. They've got to stay there. Once they're microfilmed, then they can be disposed of. And what happens, you create 2 rolls of microfilm. One goes to the state and one stays locally. Then they'll also be backed up on the county server. The document management service that we're talking about there, that's for everyone to be able to access their own individual department's documents. We'll be scanning them into that document management service, and they'll be able to access them. Some of them will revenue share off of it. I know we've talked some with the circuit court clerk, which is going to be probably our big first project in trying to really save them from major document management issues there. They'll be able to access and perhaps have a revenue stream come from that. By when people want copies of documents, they can go through that and make a copy, email it to them.
This doesn't incorporate the disposal of this extra stuff. This is an extra expense it's gonna have to be as far as it's gonna probably have to be shredded properly and disposed of properly, because it can't just be put in a trash bag and thrown away.
Right, but that will go through the Records Commission. I've already spoken with the Records Commission. They're extremely excited about this project. And we're talking about perhaps, and they may be coming to you soon as commissioners, please listen to them, where they currently meet quarterly, and if we start back scanning and microfilming, we're gonna need them probably to meet monthly. I think a couple of people that sit on the Records Commission that are citizens are actually compensated to do that. I don't know what they're paid, but they do get some compensation for being on that commission.
Wow.
And we may want to
Not much yet.
move that up to a monthly meeting so that we don't get a backlog, jammed up system. We're really creating the system. There's not another one in the state.
Yeah.
The closest that has something like this is Shelby County, because the Register of Deeds is the Archives Department in Shelby County. Now, that's not what we're trying to do here. So it's a different hybrid thing. Archives is going to be archives. We're really talking about managing records and making sure that what goes into archives needs to be in archives and not just become a storage unit again over there.
So someone pulling information now out of your office it's paperless, except for
completely
if they
paperless.
want anything, then it's $2 a copy.
It's 15 cents a page.
Okay.
Unless it's a certified copy, there's a separate fee for that. My system and the registrar's office will remain totally separate, because one of the things I do want to do is track the return on investment of this equipment and this process for other departments. We're going to keep ours completely separate and run this on a separate document management service for mainly because my service only does Register of Deeds. but also because I really want to track the return on investment. I think you'll be astounded when we get a year under our belt. You'll be astounded at the numbers. The other side of it is the equipment itself. Should provide services for the county for many years to come, and the microfilm processor and
That's what I was just thinking.
Well, it's gonna free up storage space too.
Tons, absolutely tons. You may see a decrease in people asking for more space, and having to rent space to store documents. I know for the circuit court clerk, she was, I think, down to about 6 months of storage when we started this process. I'm sure she's not got much.
We sent some to archives, so we've got.
Yeah, the problem is there's a limit, and as soon as we can start disposing of some documents, we'll be freeing up space. And long term, it should also help in reducing labor costs in retrieval of documents. That's longer term down the road. When you're able to pull something up by computer as opposed to go finding it in a box in a building over there, it saves on labor considerably.
We don't have any money in the other departments as far as her trying to do this and them charging them and all that sort of stuff, so that's something we're gonna have to deal with at a later date, I guess.
She will be charging the other departments, and they will have to pay her, so we'll have to have some intercompany.
I think what we've looked at is on the equipment, we're gonna take that cost out of the EDP fund. It's large enough to do that. Where we would want other offices, if possible, if they have a budget to chip in, would be on the cost of the film, which is about $20 a roll. And they, in that process, maybe in their office supply line, if they could purchase, if they could turn some money over to us to cover the film. We'll just work that out as to which departments have what funds available. But I think currently the size of the EDP fund is large enough to get us through the first couple of years easy enough, because the other thing that's happened in the registrar's office is because we've gone paperless and because we've, things that we used to mail, we email. We've really cut down on a lot of our expenses. Our EDP fund is growing, and we've also renegotiated our fees with the management service that we use for our documents to a point that the monies that we are collecting annually are in excess of our needs. So that fund should be perpetually covering some of these expenses, and there's enough in there in reserve, I think, to carry us forward for a good period of time.
Need a motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Shaver. Any further discussion or questions for Mrs. Dahlan?
Quick question, is that all this equipment that you're getting is new, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it is. There's not very many microfilm processors and archive writers out there in the market to begin with, we found. So yes, it's all new equipment.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Ball?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pet adoption and welfare services. Good evening, Mr. Gregory.
We were requesting a budget amendment to move $6,000 from our other salary and wages line item into our veterinary services line due to the vacancy that we had experienced with our veterinarian. This is to pay the relief veterinarians that we had hired off the market.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Shaver. Discussion?
What is our end to this situation here?
We had a veterinarian that signed a letter this week. He'll be starting the day after Labor Day.
Oh, good deal.
So we're going to continue like we have been until that time.
Good.
Okay.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Ball?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mrs. Nolan?
Okay, this is a request to move money, and it's only for cash flow purposes. The E911 grant and the grant from Homeland Security, the assistance to firefighters for the county's public safety communications project. Both of these grants are reimbursable type grants where we expend funds and then we get monies back once we claim them back. So this was, we are accounting for this project in the capital projects fund. So it's only a request to have money for cash flow, and if it's, when the project's done, we'll move the money back.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner P, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Sanders.
When do you think we'll be able to reimburse the unassigned fund balance? A year from now or sooner? Sooner.
And what I may do is only get the approval for a couple hundred, but I may only move 100 initially. I won't move the other 100 unless we need it.
But we can request the reimbursement from the E911 grant monthly if we chose, so we probably won't do it more than quarterly.
Any further discussion?
Call roll, please. Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peters?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. From the Sheriff's Department and Jail, Sheriff Arnold and Mr. Russell, good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Russell, we will start with the first three amendments and
Yes.
take that as one vote.
Okay, that's fine. So the first one is where we had sold some equipment, which were some targets, I believe, down at the range, and we're wanting to put those funds into law enforcement supplies so that we can probably buy some more. The second item is from unassigned, it'll be rollover from last year of unassigned fund balances for all the donated things we've got at the office, all the memorial gardens and stuff like that, shop with sheriff, things of that nature. The third item is the request for funds from the unassigned fund balance to go into the emergency communications. It's for the communications departments for their training line item. It's where they get a grant for the 911 board every year for $24,000 for training. And it's kind of a roll forward from last year. Those funds have to roll forward every year, as stipulated by the 911 board.
This is 27,000.
Yes, sir.
I thought you said 24.
Well, they get 24 grand every year, and so the first year they had 3 left over. Last year they didn't spend those funds at all.
Ah, okay.
And I think we just recently found out those funds are supposed to be rolling forward anyway, so.
Motion approved.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Second the motion.
seconded by Commissioner Sandlin.
On that last statement, they're supposed to roll forward. This is our process, though, that it goes in
They
any
need to-
fund, we
they
bring it
probably-
back out.
Anything that's a grant item, if this is a grant, needs to have a cost center so that we can keep up with it when we need to spend it for the purpose, so that we'll know and be able to keep up and account for it into the next year.
It is. Well,
No,
I guess it's an
it's
in-service
not.
training on our end, it's in a special line item, but in the communications budget.
I remember us talking about that when we did budget.
Yeah.
But it needs, but I'm saying on our end, when you spend out of it, it needs to
Yeah,
have a
because
cost center
the,
that it is, when you
Well,
do the
and
training, that it
we
is
track
for
it that way. Every department has its own budget broken down, which you know about, for the communications department. And so, we budget every year, we go ahead and put that money in, and of course, when the check does come in, then we realize that it's not there, so, we'll recognize those funds. We ended up, that last year they had, according to our records, we had 27,342.90 left over, but we're only asking for a portion of it back.
I would request that
Well, we can-
on the 6,100 and the other one, if you to give me what projects that comes to, which, like how much does?
Oh, the 6,100?
That's broke down into the
Well-
garden.
Okay, how much for the garden? That's what I'm saying, how
Well,
much
Rosie
does
had all that
charge?
broken down, and she sent all that to you today, and it's a list, and that's why I just
She
got a
did.
grand total. We had the Memorial Garden Shop with Sheriff, the 9/11 memorial that's being built out there.
The bricks.
All the bricks. So there's a whole bunch of things. You know, we originally, we put money in there to budget with to keep those funds rolling forward. And then when we got to the end of the year, because we never know what our ending balance is going to be until we get done paying all the bills for the year. And then there was that balance that we ended up with, and we subtracted the 9,100 that we budgeted in there. This was the balance that was left over. And so we're just requesting those to roll forward. I can give you a breakdown, I guess, on them individually, which accounts those need to go into when we, she's got all that. Yeah, just give her.
I got
she's
that
it.
today, and I'll get with her.
Okay, that's fine.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second on these three amendments. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mrs. Nolan is going to take the next one.
This amendment is both for the sheriff and jail. And after the budget was passed and doing payroll, we discovered that there were 6 lieutenant positions that were incorrectly calculated. So this is a request to increase the lieutenants on the sheriff's side of $7,420 and on the jail side $1,730. We checked the lieutenants and the juvenile detention and the workhouse, and those were okay. But these lieutenants were 6 out of several. There's more than 6, but they were okay. But 6 of them need to be corrected.
Is this out of the I guess the adjustment that we did for the employees as a whole, that's what this is? Okay. It's not,
The mayor, please forgive us as we were trying to get everybody that.
right,
That they would reveal.
right,
Especially with the payroll, when the payrolls went out.
okay.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sandlin. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mr. Russell, now we have the DEA, or the Special Purpose Fund, your revenue, and then your appropriations.
And the asset forfeiture fund, we received $589.32, and we'd like to put that into in-service training.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, if we can, gentlemen, if you would like to turn the page, we can do this as one vote. This is from
Okay.
this is from the Special Purpose Fund.
Okay, okay.
We're also going to move out of instructional supplies and materials, vehicle maintenance and new vehicles, an amount that totals $8,329, and put it into in-service training for upcoming classes that we've got some people attending. And then for the last one, we're going to move $10,000 out of our special purpose fund balance and put it into confidential payments. That's it.
I'll add that to my motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin. Who had the second?
Second.
Is that okay with you?
Yes,
Commissioner
ma'am.
Schaefer? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. And the next amendment is from the Drug Control Fund. So your K-9.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, okay, that one. I didn't know if you got that one in time. Okay, good. Okay, so there was a contribution that came in to the Drug Control Fund, $2,625 for the K-9, and so we're putting that into animal supplies for the K-9 unit.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sandlin, seconded by Commissioner P. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Gentlemen, do you have anything else?
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll try to make it tougher next time.
If you will turn to section 4 in your notebooks, please. We have a solid waste sanitation fund budget amendment. Ms. Noel.
This was one part-time person whose increase was not calculated. It's one part-time person and a separate line item. We missed it. So this is a request for $300 to increase that line item coming from the part-time personnel. The convenience budget.
So moved. Approved. Second.
Commissioner Petey, seconded by Commissioner Sexton. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Petey,
Yes.
Commissioner Salmon,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes.
That's what July's for, to kind of tidy up, I mean, August is for to kind of tidy up, you know, what.
Gentlemen, turn to section 9 in your notebooks, please, and we have a request from our circuit court clerk, Mrs. Bolden. And you have already introduced this gentleman, but
Yes.
welcome back, Mr. Buchanan, right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Getting their money's worth
And if you will
tonight out of it.
explain this
Absolutely.
request.
Absolutely. This, of course, is a long time coming, and I told you guys I'd be coming back. And so here I am.
So soon.
I told you it would be soon as well. Absolutely. Of course, we've been working on our case management project. Our current vendor has indicated they no longer want to support our software. So we've been working on finding, it's been about 18 months now, finding a new vendor, finding a new product for us. And so part of that process was actually hiring Mr. Buchanan to be that project manager. And he has been a great help in this project. So we are coming here to talk about asking for an earmark. Our initial thought was we're just going to ask for the most expensive item on the list because we still needed some time to really look through the data. One of the advantages of having a project manager do this is that he took a lot of time really planning out and asking a lot of detailed questions. So our functional requirement sheet to the vendors that we chose was 39 pages? 39 pages of things that we do every day in our office. How close do they match with what we want to happen? And so we've been able to identify 3 vendors that are GSA approved vendors. So they have contracts available with the state. And that most expensive vendor was $1,385,000. So that's what we were coming initially to ask an earmark for that on a capital purchase.
Wait for it, wait for it. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. We've had time to look at the information.
Again, it's on the back side of that first sheet, if you look on the back side.
We've had an opportunity to look at the information, look at the data, the functional requirements, the surveys from the users that came to presentations, and we've decided to go with vendor 2, which is indeed the least expensive of the 3 vendors that made the final cut, if you will. So that's an $868,000 request rather than a $1.385 million request.
Let me ask one question. I should have already asked.
Sure, you can ask.
But on the first page, vendor 1, 2, and 3 has been ranked and scored.
Yes.
And you've given vendor 3 a 90% score, aggregate score. And vendor
Yes.
2, who you're now recommending, has got a lower score. Are you
It does.
completely comfortable with that approach?
Yes, and I'll tell you specifically why it has a lower score. It does not have an integrated jury management system.
Oh, okay. I got
So
you.
that the overall score ends up making it lower.
Makes it look like it's lower.
Exactly. And in our conversations, one of the advantages with this particular vendor that we would like to go with is the fact that they are very focused on doing case management. They're not trying to be everything to us. So that makes us more comfortable with the kind of service that they'll provide for us on that case management side. Specifically, our audit issues that we have. This vendor has never failed an audit in any, and they're in state courts as far as across an entire state system. Other advantages with this particular vendor, they are actually the vendor that's in our state's DA's conference. So 29 of the 31 DA conferences actually use this software. The third thing that we really like.
There's an installation going on right now in Putnam County.
So they already have some experience right here in Tennessee. So as we get to that point where we're going through installation, they will have already built the code tables. They will already have addressed the financials. They will already have created a lot of reports that we already use because they are state. There's not a lot of state unified reports, but a lot of those are similar. The other thing that I really like is that we have the ability to create our own interfaces between those departments. So we won't have to rely on a vendor to come back in when we want to link with the sheriff's office, or we want to link with the DA's office, or the public defender, or the THP. We will be able to utilize OIT's skill sets to create those interfaces and share data. That also creates a cost savings to the county as well, because currently with our current vendor, we have 6 ancillary departments that are purchasing the right to view the software or the data we've already created. That's $40,000 that we're spending for them to have the right to view this. This particular pricing on this particular vendor takes our annual maintenance cost from $81,000 to $66,000 in our office, and eliminates that $40,000 completely. The other thing with respect to costs is I just went and did a real quick survey of office supplies. Because our system is so archaic and we still have 15 dot matrix printers, and we're still using pen-fed 2-part carbon pre-printed forms, we spent just on those types of things $13,000 in office supplies this year. Just to get, or in this last fiscal, just to get those things that we have to have because we have 15 dot matrix.
So, couple of questions.
Sure.
In vendor 2, additional cost, we got 60,000, which is the highest. Vendor 1 didn't even have any additional cost. Vendor 3 only had $19,000 additional cost for whatever that may be. The other software, the installation services, man, the license itself is just that's unreal, isn't it? With the travel estimate is this, and then the unanticipated expenses, they just added another 10%. All 3 of them did on that. So I mean, that's just a grasp there. That's a.
Well, I can speak to those specifically.
Okay.
The additional cost in vendor 2 is that jury management system, the license for that jury management system. Okay, so that's an additional cost. That's what that additional cost represents.
And it says that in here, because I don't see that.
We did not include the jury management system because when we initially made the request to be on the agenda, we weren't entirely certain which vendor was going to be the best for us.
But we need that in black and white, though. We've been down these roads before where we're not, and
we did not copy everything that they had. I mean, it would have been a huge packet.
Yeah.
It was like
So,
24 pages. We were trying to figure out what.
I understand.
They're saying that
But
on
they
the
do
first
have it.
page.
Well, and I just got it and taking a quick glance. That's just a couple of things I asked about.
I don't have the cost of the jury management system here with me. I have it in black and white, and I can have it.
But we do have a quote
Yeah.
on that. It's not a number we just
Pull out of
picked.
air, yeah.
That is.
I mean, you understand what I'm asking? I mean,
Certainly. I'm just saying.
You would want that as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying we do have that, so we can forward that over to you. Part of that unanticipated expense is gonna be that data transfer cost from our current vendor software into this new software. That is going to be an interesting adventure. because the current data is messy. That's the best word I can just use to describe it, messy.
Yeah, some of the fields like in the software have been reused for other items. So you may have a field that was one time used for hair color. May have changed 3 or 4 times from hair color to social security number to a marking, tattoo, or whatnot. So there's a lot of cleanup that will need to be performed to get pristine data going forward.
On our part.
Well, yes, on our part, we will have to, there'll be several iterations in the conversion process of where the vendor will go in and say, well, does this information match up to, is this what you expect?
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, then we need to go back and take a look at what it could possibly, would need to go in that field to make it correct.
I mean, I'm gonna leave it up to the professionals on this. You know, if y'all think it's good, then we need to go with it. But I mean, we had some issues back in the sheriff's department back in the day on these type of situations, to where if we're going in and having to do it ourselves by, we're buying a package, and we want that package to do everything it's supposed to do, and us not have to, for better terminology, gerrymander with what the program's set up to do.
Well,
You know, because then that brings us down, and then it messes it up, and then we have to get, you know,
Yeah, well,
professionals
I
come in,
think-
and
what
here we go,
we're-
more expense. You know.
And what we're talking about is the data.
Mhm.
The package itself
Mhm.
will be usable. Our data transfer, we have to confirm that, because we're the ones that are sitting there.
Just the
looking-
differences in ours and this one.
It-
Yeah, they don't.
Just
they don't.
moving that data from one,
From one software package
Yeah.
to another.
a new software package,
Yeah.
there's a
Right.
conversion
But is
process
that a
goes on.
part that's going to bog you down into, you know?
We are hoping that it will not bog us down. I mean, that is, but it will cost money
Yes.
in order to do that, because we have to get that information from our current vendor in a usable form. It's not something that they can just download a spreadsheet and we suck in a spreadsheet and voila, it's exactly there.
That's what I like. I like the voila.
Voila. I love the voila.
Don't work, you turn
Exactly.
it off, turn it back on, it works.
Exactly. That's exactly where we'd want to be. But we know that that's not the reality that's going to happen. So, and this is the same software that used to be in the sheriff's office. I mean, this software came to the county in '84 in the sheriff's office and came to the clerk's office in '89.
I was thinking it was.
It is the exact same software. So when the sheriff moved off of it in '96, there was some difficulty with that data transfer, absolutely. We are trying not to have that same experience.
Well, it suited our needs for the day, but it's,
Yeah.
that day is not today, you know,
It's
so,
not.
I mean, that's,
It's not.
like I said, I gotta leave it up to the professionals on it, so. Has Brian looked at it too?
Oh, gosh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Figured he
mean,
had.
we've not,
Yeah.
we have definitely not done this in a vacuum. Wilkie put together a focus group of people in the community, attorneys, the judiciary, clerks, of course, the clerks, members from the sheriff's office, judicial commissioners. They've all had an opportunity to see what we're doing and be a part of these software reviews.
This is a loaded question, but true life expectancy of this program is what? You know, you buy one, they say tomorrow you're out, you know, so I mean, what is the reality here we're looking at before we're having to redo this again?
Well, we're going into this process, going to select a vendor that we want to last for the next 20 years because we want it to, not because we have to. But I mean, this is a rock solid company that we're dealing with, has a great reputation. 10, 15, 20 years?
I mean, this company is strong enough to continually give you updates.
Updates,
Improvements
yes.
in the system that will help you grow as you change.
That's a
The
big,
system
big
we've got
part right
now
there,
is
yeah. Yeah.
Antiquated to say the least.
Yes.
And it's configurable, whereas like Ms. Bowen was informing y'all, any changes that need to be made to the software that we currently have in the past, we've had to call on the vendor. this software package will allow us to make those changes on our own without incurring any additional costs. So there would be a savings there as well, so.
Absolutely.
And so the maintenance cost, I was reading on down here, doesn't kick in until
we go live.
until we're all on board, until
Yes,
everything
until we
switches over.
say, thank you very much, this looks perfect, let's turn the switch.
And your
the next
estimated
day-
time frame there too.
Well,
Our goal is 18 months, but we can't start until we can start,
Right.
so.
And what do you need from this committee tonight?
Well, we need, I need to discuss where the money's gonna come from, and then we're just gonna turn that over to Lisa.
Tell her, first thing I've heard about this
No.
She would stop me if I said that. Okay. And we-
It's like my kid said, you got a check, don't you? I mean.
Well, that's-
Right.
Will Canamar was able to get some information. What confused me is there's New Dawn Technology. Which one? Are these two separate?
they're two separate, but the one that we're looking at is New Dawn,
Okay.
so.
Okay. I made copies so that we
Okay.
can have something to talk
So
about.
Yes,
You were looking at New Dawn.
yes.
Okay. So the options is
Oh, wait.
is a capital lease to where you would be paying over 4 years, 233,614 every year, for 4 years. The second one, the other option is over 5 years, $203,030. They're at 3.9%. We have honestly not gone back to say what would we want to do? Do we want to fund it all up front? That would close better in our general fund than I had estimated, but did you want to draw all of it down? I mean, 800-something thousand. I told you we had 1.5 million in the reserve for capital. That's an option if you want half and half, or did you want to go with the capital lease and just fund a portion of it? To do this, we still need in the budget $234,000 for the first year. That's not in our budget, so we would at least have to fund that if we go with this option.
Well, what's your suggestion, being you the finance director, the best way to go?
32, 60,
What I'm looking at.
66.
What was?
What was it?
The options of paying out.
Commissioner Jernigan is
Exactly
asking
what
what
your-
the finance
What's my-
director would recommend. What would be her
And
suggestion?
just to emphasize as well, if we do the amortization schedule, we will not incur an annual maintenance cost until after that amortization schedule. So it's not,
It's all included.
it's not this amortization of the fee and all of the initial costs, and then another $65,000. That's included in that, so we
This
would
is
not.
already included, the
That's
65
already-
is
it's
already
already-
included in here?
Yes,
Okay.
so.
So
yes.
in the 4-year period, it's gonna work out the same as if you paid it up front, the 868, right?
Subtract the 60,000 from 233. You think
They only said 883 is the balance, so how do you get from there? 868 plus 65 would be 923.
Well, keep in mind, our
No,
868 is their initial total is different.
868 and
'cause that's
65
including-
is
That's the
933.
total cost we're projecting of spending because we have that additional jury
Oh,
management
I see,
system.
so that additional
Yeah.
unexpected and
Yeah.
unanticipated is not in there for.
Correct. That's
Oh.
just for our side because we know we're gonna have to come up with some,
Okay, so that's not in their price, that's 78,000.
Oh, the
Correct.
10%'s not.
correct. That's for us to anticipate
Any
needing.
additional needs
Is
that
the
may come
60
along.
in there?
No.
No.
The 60
Oh.
is not in
That's
there.
another vendor, exactly.
And
This
the-
would be if we asked for the money.
138,000
You were gonna
in
pay
here.
it all at one time.
Would be which one? The-
883.
That 883, 147.
that still doesn't look right.
That's that.
Because if you take out the 60 and the 78, you're down to 700 something.
Right, so you've got 789, so less the 60,000 for that, so we're talking about 720.
730.
The 730.
730.
Mhm.
But how do we get 883 then?
Because they're financing it.
That's a lot of financing money. 3.9, it doesn't seem possible. This
Right.
gets you up to 934, which would include your finance charges. It's really only $51,000 of finance charges.
Well, let me add that New Dawn, once they found out we would want to do a payment plan, they offered, you see the New Dawn discount? To kind of help offset the interest that we would incur. They gave us they would pay up to $50,000 in discounts. And that would come off the top, so actually the interest, where you see 51,000 on the 4 annual payments, we would actually only be paying 9,000 in interest.
But we have to take financing in order to get the $40,000 discount. If we paid it in a lump sum on the front end, we don't get the $40,000 discount.
$11,000 is what he said.
Yeah.
So they're reducing the interest cost from 51 to 11. That's hard to get.
I guess at 883, 147, and then if you take out the additional cost in the other one, that's 728, 726. So what's that other?
155,000.
Yeah, 154.
One question here, if we were to finance this, can it be paid at any point without penalty?
I did not ask that question.
We just got this information this afternoon.
Yes.
So we don't have that.
I almost hate to make a decision right now without
Do we,
a little bit more.
tell us about the time frame on when you actually have to know exactly how we're going to pay for this. You're going to execute a contract tomorrow, or?
No, we would not execute a contract without having any money.
I understand. No, I understand that, but
Yes.
you need to know exactly.
The sooner we know the funding, the sooner we can start the project.
Can we
That's-
have, I guess I'm asking, could they have proven concept and let us drill deeper with options and then maybe come up with a solution?
Kind of why
Let us
came with.
work through some of these numbers and make
Yeah.
sure we all
Could-
agree.
We have enough that we could pay it from development
You
tax,
could-
right?
Well, what I was thinking is even, pull down half from the development tax and half from the general fund, unassigned balance.
Gotcha.
Well,
If it saves enough.
We do have enough, but I'd like to see us have a little more flexibility and not necessarily use up all of our tools in our toolbox yet. So, but I'd like.
I'd like to know where some of these
We'd
numbers.
like
Yeah.
to work on this a little bit and give you a hard recommendation,
Well,
if they can allow us time to do that.
I don't really want to pay them all up front. I mean, I want to make sure that they
Doing
stay
what they-
connected with us, I got your
I think
money.
they will, but I agree that, I wouldn't want to pay 100%.
I'm
and
sure
then-
they're our best.
Yeah.
Even if it's like
Yeah.
Right.
some
Would
at
still
the
be-
beginning and then another,
There'd be
almost
still
like what this
something
other
held out.
group had is,
Yeah,
just
maybe a quarter,
I'd like to see them come back with the part finances on that, just the
Yeah.
maintenance agreement by itself.
Yeah.
Over 4 years, if it's gonna be extended, if we make payments, looks like that would offset a lot of it there.
Where you're
What
paying.
kind of holes
I don't
is
know
this gonna
this like
put
this,
them
but
in with the
so
land
much
law?
at signing and another part over so many months, another
And there's
piece as you get along.
Another $140,000 worth of difference right there on those two, what do we do with it? And then 40,000 in savings added on to that. So, I mean, if you need a motion on the floor to, get the ball rolling, and y'all work the details out and come back with us, and we'll.
What we really need is for you to approve these total dollars, the $789,000. Is that what you need us to approve?
Yeah, I was hoping to get an approval of 868,000.
Okay, so, but
Yeah.
78 of it will be, you will have that in your
Yes.
account to spend outside of the purchase of this equipment,
Correct.
this software.
Well, that's one of my questions there, the 868. I mean, I got 140,000 different here. If you got the $40,000 discount and stuff, we're not talking about true 868.
We haven't worked through that yet.
Yeah. So we did.
Okay, but the contract to New Dawn would be essentially 789,000 plus the additional 78,000 you're gonna need for conversion cost.
Fairly close.
Yes. Fairly close. What we really, you endorse the concept of spending a total of $868,000. And then let us come back with a recommendation on exactly what that pays for and how we're going to suggest that we pay for it, whether overtime or whatever, some combination thereof.
And that's really what I was looking for in the beginning, was, initially, we were going to request that 1,386,000 and that proof of concept kind of thing, and then we would come back to you with an exact number. If we can just get that proof of concept.
I'm all on board with what you're trying to do within this package here. I'm just saying, I'm having a little pill to swallow here on the 868 when we're looking at $140,000 difference of true dollars that may not be used. And I don't.
Well,
even if I cut it $100,000 and say
$78,000, that's not going to be part of our financing arrangement. That's money
Right.
that will be on top of the finance with New Dawn.
Mhm.
We're not going to finance that, is that
No,
correct, Ms.
No,
Rowland?
that is, yes.
We're
And,
going to bring you back a spreadsheet that will get this
Yes,
all
right.
detailed in a little
Right.
bit more
Okay.
definitive manner.
right.
All right.
That's what we need.
I mean, in their defense, they put this together pretty quickly today. Wanted to make sure that we had some numbers, and this is what they were able to come with, so.
At full commission?
I was gonna say, my question, are you gonna, is this gonna be next
Yeah.
month at this
I mean,
committee?
I could, that's what I'm thinking. Why don't we get we don't rush into something here. We're talking about next week on the full commission. Let's get our numbers down, right, bring it back through budget, and let's hammer this out and do it right. Y'all been working too hard to push something through here that's a couple $100,000 off and gonna irritate some county commissioners on overfunding something,
Okay,
my opinion. Only.
all right.
Don't have a choice.
Well,
We've
Well-
had 18 months. we
I mean, a couple of
Yeah.
things bothered me, they put this together today.
Yeah.
They didn't put all this other information together for you in a day. Y'all worked
Right.
hard
Well,
on
we-
that.
yeah, we did.
Everything's, nailed down and looking good, and then when this comes, even the mayor was saying that percentages in the finance center is not exactly right. So, let's get that down. We want to do it, so whatever we need to do to give you the green light
Or do we just,
and head forward.
well, that's what I was gonna ask, but are we gonna have a motion to approve the concept at all?
But
or-
I'll make that motion to approve the concept, but I don't want to put a dollar amount on it.
But with no
I want-
dollar amount?
I want y'all to come back with us next month with some hard numbers, financing and
specific
everything,
number?
and
And the different, with the
Yes.
different options, I think he's wanting to.
Yes.
We'll
Okay.
have-
Yeah.
We'll get one or two
Alright.
scenarios of
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it goes on.
Okay, now let me make sure,
That's a
Commissioner
pretty broad
Stanton,
motion, but,
you're approving the concept of this, case management system, and you're asking for.
To come back next
Firm
month.
numbers and, the funding.
Yes.
Mechanism.
Options.
You
Okay.
agree with this, Mr. Mayor,
Sir?
the way this motion is?
Yeah, I'm okay. Do you want us to go ahead? and
I'll
approve it?
second.
Gentlemen, we need a second. Okay, we have a second.
Okay.
Now, discussion, please.
Did you want them to
Sure.
say they approve your selection of New Dawn while we're in this same motion?
Yeah.
That's how we look at
Okay,
it.
the concept of the New Dawn Technologies,
Right.
will you add that?
I'm leaving that up to y'all. I mean, but
Is that-
if
will
that
you
helps
add
you
that
out,
to your
move
co-
forward with these and get everything down, yeah.
So that you
Okay.
add that to your motion
Okay.
and your
Right.
second.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
That's who we're talking
Is that
about.
okay?
So, gentlemen, are we clear at this point with the motion? Any further discussion?
Thank you. A lot of hard work. Yeah, yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
They'll bring it all back next month, right? We'll have to say
Yeah.
that.
I know, I'm gonna look at this one more carefully now that
Gentlemen,
Just
section
go.
8 in your notebooks. And I think we are familiar with this resolution, since I think I did I just do this last meeting that we had? And we said we would have to come back after the election, and that's what is happening.
Excuse me.
So I will present 2 resolutions for facsimile signature, adding Mr. Gregory A. Brooks, road superintendent, to both of these resolutions. A resolution that would be for the county payroll account and for the county trustee account. And if I hear no objection, we'll just do a voice vote on both of those resolutions.
Okay.
If someone will make a
Good point.
motion
So
to
moved.
that.
Second.
Was that Commissioner Schaefer and Commissioner Peak? Okay.
Are we leaving one out?
We will, no, we're not, are
No, 'cause it's
you thinking
paycheck.
about Mr. Burns? That, they have not had that election. We'll have to come back at some point in time with that, when the new school board chairman is elected.
All right.
Gentlemen, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That was for both of them, yes. Anything else that needs to come before our committee? Nothing else? Okay, gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.